Thank you for coming to listen for a moment. This is Most Julius with YAG Radio. Thank you again for coming to listen. We're going to get right into it. This is Abraham and Sarah Allegory, part 1. And we'll get into more of this as we go on. But before we get started with the allegory of Abraham and Sarah, I need to show in the Bible when it says that these stories are allegory. So let's get right into it. Let's go to Galatians 4 and 24. Which things are an allegory? For these two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which genereth to bondage, which is Agar. And you can go back to, I just went to 24, but if you go to verse 22, it'll tell you that these are talking about the sons of Abraham in the Abraham story. So what is an allegory? An allegory is a story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral or political one. So let's look at the first thing that the first instructions that God gave Abraham. And this was in Genesis 12:1. It says, Now the Lord had said unto Abraham, Get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land I will shew thee. So this is speaking of the carnal mind, the same carnal mind when Jesus says, if you do not hate your mother and do not hate your father, you can't follow him. You cannot follow Jesus if you do not hate your carnal side of yourself. That's why it says you can't serve two masters. And your kindred is everything you're used to. These are your traditions and dwelling in the lower mind. So let's see why in the story he has to physically leave his father's house. And we see in Genesis 11:26, Terah is his father, and it says he lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And in verse 28 it says, And Haran died before his father, Terah, in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. And Ur of the Chaldees was referred to as Moon City. Because of the moon is symbolic for your emotions, because it actually reflects back what is shown on it. And also, Ur of the Chaldees was under the rule of the goddess Sin. And this is all information you can look up under the goddess Sin. So this symbolically lets you know that being led by your emotions or following your emotional nature is living in sin. So Genesis 12:4, it says, So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And we will break down further about the information of who Lot is. But Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Let's see, and that's 75. So that's 7 is for divine intervention. 5 represents meditation, sacrificing the 5 senses. And you add 7 plus 5, that equals 12, which means perfection. And also add the 1 and 2 together, which means new life. So these numbers, they play a significant role in understanding things. Verse 11, it says, Abram came to Egypt. And Egypt symbolizes the lower mind because it says, Out of Egypt I have called my son. And we'll get into that more later as well. So let's wrap this up. In verse 12, it says, he says that the Egyptians will see her and know that she is his wife and kill him and keep her alive. So what does it say in verse 13? It says, this is Abram speaking to Sarah. It says, Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And before we get into the rest of this, please go take a look at Amnon raping his sister. This is the same play on sister, using it as the actual spirit. So Sarah plays along, and she goes to the Pharaoh's house. In verse 17, it says, And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. So the Pharaoh is your divine mind and the house is your body. So being led by your emotional nature is actually living in sin or following sin. And this is why the house was plagued. So it's just a play on the words. And the difference between the wife and the sister is the wife is one who lays with the husband and is an aspect of your emotional nature. And the husband does not lay with his sister. So this symbolizes the spirit. And she pretended to be of spirit. So this is why in verse 19, the Pharaoh speaking says, "Why sayest thou, she is my sister? So I might have taken her to me to wife. Know now, there, behold, take thy wife, take her, and go thy way." And this is because you can't raise in consciousness using your following or being led by your emotional nature. And you can't raise yourself in consciousness using your emotions or pretending your emotional nature is your spirit. And again, in part 2, we will pick up on more of the allegory of Abraham and Sarah. I'm not sure when or what will be next, but we will eventually get to it. Please like, share, and comment. I say that all the time, but nobody actually likes the videos. But I feel one day is coming. Maybe some people that actually listen to me one day will start sharing these videos and will start liking the videos, so they'll be popping up on more screens. And that's what it's going to take for it to do it. But again, please like, share, comment your opinions on the video, and I'll be back soon with more information.